WJAY. The WJAY was probably the second most important miracle of my life. Of course, the first and most important is when I met that young southern girl from Horry County and married her. And still married 58 years later. But getting back to WJAY, that was really my home and the reason why I came south. And I stayed there from 1950 to 1963. And when I got the call, they had had a new radio station and a used transmitter, which kind of was odd to me, but they were having transmitter problems, and I was hired as a transmitter engineer and came down to really work on equipment, and I told them I was only going to stay for 6 months. And here I am over a half a century later, in fact 64 years later, and still going strong in the South. But during my tenure at WJAY, we did a lot of things and had a lot of fun. I think one of the best things was my early morning program, which was called Yawn at Dawn, and it was nothing more than get them out of bed, tell them what time it was, read the news, and just chit-chat, play big band music, and it was a lot of fun, it really was. Appreciate you tuning in, and we kind of want you back every morning, if you don't mind, from 7 to about 10 o'clock. We'll get you out of bed, give you the time signals and the news. Thank you. But we had a lot of firsts at WJAY that I'm proud of. One of them was the fact that there were never any church broadcasts in this area for sick and shut-in people. And they never had the opportunity, or they didn't have the opportunity all the time to get to church. So I was reading at the time, it was after World War II, and the old surplus catalogs, and I saw an amplifier out of a B-24 bomber. And it didn't cost but $11. So I talked to the manager and we got one, and I ended up converting it, and with a couple of 500 ohm transformers we were able to hook it to a telephone line. The churches paid for the microphones and the time on the air, and we got the sick and shut-ins to where they could hear their church. And I put them in the three main churches in Mullins and in Marion, and that was an important step, I think. People really did like that. Another first that we had was in my early morning program, I used to call people, but you only heard one side of the conversation. And one of my favorite people to call was one of the owner's wives. Her name was Mamie Lee Smith. And I used to sit and chat with her. So I finally told her, I said, we got to do something about this and get your voice on. I said, you need to come on out here. But she was a mother raising a family, and she had things to do at home. So at the time, I was a ham radio operator, and I built a phone patch which hooked between our console at the radio station and the phone patch to where I could flip a switch. It wasn't automatic because we just didn't have that type of thing then, but I could flip a switch and you could hear her and me. Both sides of the conversation, a big first, and people really liked it. So Mamie Lee came on, and every morning I'd call her, and we named her little segment Through the Kitchen Window. And she made like she was looking out that kitchen window. Very popular program at the time. Another thing we did that I thought was pretty neat was I don't say many because I don't know how many are still living, but back in the early 50s, Hurricane Hazel saw fit to bust through this area and really caused devastation. Well, as a ham radio operator, I brought the station, my ham, and we had another ham radio operator, Forrest Ramsey. So we put together a station at WJAY, and I had one in my automobile. And it was I don't remember the car, I think it was a Buick, 54 Buick. But, make a long story short, I went and took the car, we went down to Myrtle Beach, and incidentally had trouble getting in because they weren't letting people in and out because of looting. The devastation was bad. And I went down there with the car, and we had the first on-spot radio broadcast of a hurricane coming in to the area of Myrtle Beach. And that was a first, and I thought, that was pretty good. And we used to pull a lot of stunts, too. In my morning program, I know one time, April Fool's Day, for instance, I started the time signals a half an hour ahead. So when 7 o'clock came, I said it was 7:30. Well, in those days when there wasn't any television, people listened to the radio. And they got their time signals from it. So I kept giving the time signal. I got down to 7:30. I said, and now it's time for the 8 o'clock news. And I started the news, and I just could not keep a straight face. Well, lo and behold, the phone started ringing because people were rushing at the breakfast table to get out the door to go to work and what have you. And I think for the next half hour, I just sat there and talked to people on the phone who were giving me the devil for doing such a stupid thing. But I had fun, and I still, once in a while, somebody will approach and, say, well, we sure do miss you on the radio. But they didn't miss me any more than I missed being on the radio. Well, that's about it for WJAY, and I hope you enjoyed it.